I'm Tom Shires.
And I'm Mike Ireland.
And this is the first annual Shirgendas Award, celebrating the best and worst in film for the year 2018.
So without any further ado, let's start the show.
It's Tom Shires and Mike Ireland. These are the Shirgendas for 2018. And straight into our first award then, unexpectedly good film of the year. So the idea of a film that expectations may have been somewhat low, but then it punched above its weight.
Yeah, and there were a number of contenders for this, the first gong of the 2018 show. And what about the various contenders? Well, we had the likes of The Star Is Born, A Star Is Born, in The Reckoning, along with Bumblebee, Halloween, The Meg, going a bit aquatic.
Bumblebee even got Bumblebee even got an honourable mention.
Yeah, because
the other Transformers films are so bad.
Because the reviews were actually very good, and I think
Poor to middling.
I think John Cena, he's in it.
Yeah, I think it's actually John Cena, I think.
Is it?
Yes, but he doesn't say it like that because it doesn't sound as good as Cena.
And also, to quickly note, Mission Impossible Fallout, because you'd have thought by, what was it, number 7? Would have run out of steam.
Ghost Protocol was 4, Rogue Nation was 5, it's film 6.
It's film 6. Paddington 2, because the first one was very good, and how could they live up to it? And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which came out late in the year, and has been garnering an awful lot of praise.
But the winner gets the award because I guess it has the advantage of its previous films, bar one, not doing very well. Mm-hmm. It's taken a character that was in the shadows, literally in the deep, dark depths of somewhere, and has brought him into the light in a way that people have actually liked.
Yeah, a film that's taken some risks, and they seem to have paid off.
So, the Shirgenda for unexpectedly good film of the year goes to Aquaman.
Directed by the insidious James Wan, Aquaman, the greatest hero of them all, netted an impressive haul for Warner Brothers, whose DCEU appeared to have sunk without trace in 2017's Justice League. Starring Jason Momoa as fruit and vegetable salesman Alan Bauer, and Amber Heard as his mermaid love interest Madison, a sequel concerning viable alternatives to haddock and cod for fish and chips is already in development, international fishing rights permitting.
So with the exception of Wonder Woman, it didn't really have much to beat in its own universe, did it?
A lot of fish and an ocean master, apparently. But I don't know. Old preconceptions about Aquaman were perhaps one thing, because Aquaman, beaten around the head with a dead fish with the number of jokes made at Aquaman's expense over the years. So I do think it's a bit of an achievement on the part of James Wan and Jason Momoa to come out with something that's been so well received.
Where to next, Mike?
Well, our next category is you couldn't move for, and that is one where we pick out the stars who seem to be very, very high profile in 2018.
Is it the case of some of these that they haven't necessarily had so many films out, but maybe that the films that they have been in have been so in our faces that it's kind of gone annoying?
A little bit of both, I suppose, really, because a number of these contenders, the likes of James Corden, for example, did have a couple of films out. I was about to say Peter Pan, it wasn't it?
Peter Rabbit.
Peter Rabbit in particular. But really, he just seems to be ubiquitous, and that is, you could say it's an alternative title for the award. Likewise, there are going to be a lot of Marvel actors who are going to get their names dropped when it comes to contention for this one, because the likes of Benedict Cumberbatch, Michael B. Jordan, Chris Pratt, I think all appeared in multiple Marvel movies in 2018.
Emily Blunt, also an honourable mention for, I guess, Mary Poppins and
Yeah, keep that secret, that one. And therefore, our winner has actually come up with something of a big achievement, really, in claiming it, because only the 2 films out in a year, yet it still did seem to be the year of this particular gentleman.
He's all over telly, though, isn't he, as well?
He does.
Sky Atlantic, he's every programme.
He does a good interview as well. He's always on chat shows, and he's always keeping himself in the papers one way or another.
So the winner of You Couldn't Move For of the year is
Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock.
Though California-born, Dwayne Johnson, star of action as Rampage and Skyscraper in 2018, has recently become an adopted tyke after attending a gym in Doncaster. In fact, he was last seen riding down the hills near Holmfirth in a bathtub filled with Tetley's tea, along with a pair of errant pensioners pulled along by a team of whippets, wearing a flat cap, reading Geoffrey Boycott's autobiography, and calling out "I'll see thee" at the top of his, what we are sure are very large lungs.
I hear mixed things, everything from very, very likeable to a bit of a diva.
Do you?
Do you think he's earned that? Do you think all Hollywood stars get to a point where they earn a little bit of, well, I'm super famous, what are you going to do about it?
I suppose so, and you wouldn't really back talk to Dwayne Johnson. Only the two films, as I say, out last year, Skyscraper and Rampage, but it was coming off a very good late 2017 with Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Welcome Back to the Jungle. He's going into a jungle.
Yeah, and it was good fun. Rampage and Skyscraper, B-movies trying to be A-movies?
But is he the only sort of B-movie actor who can headline A-list movies now?
It's a skill.
It is a skill, and that is why he's got an award.
It can almost be the award for too hot for TV or too hot for the device that you are watching on, based on one, its content, and also the fact that it didn't make it onto the playlists that we make for the Shires and Ireland agenda because it's not for the families.
Yeah, that is very true. There were a number of contenders for the honour of best thing about a bad movie, but one of them was it? Could we say personal favourite?
Certainly of yours. Don't bring me into this.
Certainly of mine. We better quickly mention that other contenders for this gong included Sherlock Gnomes, just because he sort of came and went without too much of a notice. But
the best thing's the title. I think it peaks there. After that, it can't get any better than that.
Is there going to be a TV spin-off? They've done Romeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes. Gnomes without a hammer or something, I don't know.
Oh, I like it.
Gnomes under the hammer sounds quite violent. Let's move on to a film that has got gongs aplenty.
Do you feel daft about this now, being on this list? Because I'm sure this was your suggestion. And you're not a bit of egg on face, maybe?
Because I do know the initial reaction was the film itself isn't great, but the star is very good, which therefore I would say makes it a viable contender for best thing about a bad movie. It does seem as though the overwhelming public adoration for Bohemian Rhapsody has kind of boosted the film more generally, as well as getting recognition for Rami Malek's performance. But yes, in terms of where the gong actually goes, the best thing about a bad movie award is being handed out to
London Fields.
They said it was a mess. They said it was awful. They said the trailer was not safe for work. They were right, though Mike did watch the trailer 17 times just to make sure. But at least it wasn't boring. Well, it was, but it was also bizarre. London Fields, Shires and Ireland hit it for 6.
So she has many friends, and Johnny Depp's in it.
Yeah, he is. If you want to get the memory of the good times for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, then London Fields, it may be the place to go. May not be, as we say, very much NSFW. Had to work it out there in my head. Lots of problems behind the scenes in the production.
Not safe for...
Work.
Oh, all right, yes.
We heard, as I said, that there were many problems behind the scenes with this one and disputes between the producers and the directors and the star. The release was delayed for a very long time. Was it worth it? Well, it was certainly worth it for us because we got some merriment and amusement.
You did. Once again, don't bring me into this.
Well, it just seemed a bizarre concept for a film, and it got the awful recognition that it deserved, and yet the trailer was very enjoyable. So, moving on to our next category, and you're not happy with one of the nominees for this one, Thomas?
I'm not. This is the Shirgenda for sequel, prequel, Too Far, and the first honourable mention goes to Bumblebee, that you may also remember, because it was only about 5 minutes ago, was nominated for Unexpectedly Good Film of the Year. So how can it be a sequel, prequel, Too Far, and be unexpectedly good at the same time? Mike Island.
Because the reaction to it from the critics was very strong, or at least very strong for a Transformers film. However, the commercial success of Bumblebee was not great. Therefore, I felt it was justified to put it in both categories.
Yeah, the poster for Bumblebee that's on the side of a bus looked like I'd made it. Now, normally that's a seal
good
of
thing, everybody.
kind of quality and goodness, but not when you've been paid for it.
No, very, very, very much not. But I expect there will be more Transformers films coming out.
And more posters from me.
Whether or not there will be more Maze Runner films coming out, I'm not sure, because that was also one of the nominees, candidates for
No more
prequels
books.
so far.
There's a prequel,
okay.
but I don't think he'll be in it somehow.
All right. Well,
It's about how the world gets into the state that it is in Maze Runner, so he won't be back for that.
yes, so
He
Maze Runner.
barely survived the third one.
Maze Runner: The Death Cure sank without a trace, as did The Predator, which got a lot of, I was about to say off-field, sort of off-screen, as it were, attention because of doings on the set. Solo: A Star Wars Story had to be nominated for this one, really, because it's the least successful Star Wars film of all time.
Does that make it a prequel too far?
I think the argument is there wasn't a massive demand to know what Han Solo was doing before he became Han Solo, in effect. So why do you need to make that film? And I do think it's made Lucasfilm think more strategically about where they go from here in terms of Star Wars spin-offs. But our sequel, prequel, too far honour is being handed out to
Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
The 29th film in the Harry Potter cash cow, ironically not a creature in the movie, Fantastic Beasts: European Vacation, also nominated for Best Documentary Feature, was conjured up by David Yates and Robert Galbraith, and features Eddie Redmayne as blandly eccentric and Johnny Depp as generically evil. No CGI beasts were harmed in the making of the film, though several visual effects technicians did develop repetitive strain injury.
I have friends who saw Fantastic Beasts 2, if we can call it that, just to save time, who said it's a very good film, very good bridging film. Now, is that acceptable in this day and age with you paying your £10 whatever, unless you've meerkatted it, even then it's cost two of you £10, to have people sit through a film for 2.5 hours that is only really an extended trail of the better things to come?
I suppose it depends, Thomas, on how big a pothead you are. Because...
Don't bring me into this.
No, because this is the only place you're going to get this particular type of, well, not type of, this particular story of Newt Scamander and his magical creature friends, or whatever it is that goes on in the films. Therefore, you might be prepared to sit through it in the way that you're prepared to sit through the longers in some of the Harry Potter books. But I think, as you sort of touched on, if your story in and of itself isn't interesting, try and come up with a different story.
Yeah, I think they've also missed a trick because they release J.K. Rowling's screenplay to these films, but don't release, as far as I'm aware, a novelisation of them. And don't you think there'd be a lot of money in that? Because people like buying Harry Potter books.
But would they be resentful of the fact that it wasn't J.K. Rowling that was writing it?
Well, no, but she writes the screenplays for the film.
No, but yes, but I'm saying...
Or in the sense of it being a novelisation of the script of J.K. Rowling by...
Yeah,
such and such person.
Would she be unhappy as well about the idea that you've got Joe Bloggs to write the what would in effect be the official book?
And I guess maybe she's too busy writing bridging films. Next to a studio that was very much in need of a hit, I was watching a wonderful documentary on YouTube earlier on this week about Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 3 and how that then became Ghostbusters Who Are You Going to Call, or what's the other subtitle? No, there's is it Take the Call, or there's another subtitle for the female led reboot. Answer the Call.
Was it?
That's the one. So Sony, their best films of late have been hand in hand with Marvel, but they've gone it alone for a film that is going to win the Shirgenda for inexplicable success. I can't even say it. Inexplicable success of the year. But why is it? Because we love superheroes.
Yeah.
The star is a very popular man in his own right.
Yes.
Good action star as well. Why inexplicable? Which I can now say.
I think there's two things really. One is that the character of the central character, really, the title character, is very, very closely associated with the character that, for legal reasons, cannot appear in the film. Therefore, I do think people wondered, well, how is this going to work? And number two is, while the actor in question is an incredibly popular actor and has read numerous books on CBeebies to great acclaim, he hasn't actually headlined too many movies that have made a huge amount of money. So I do.
Trying to say he's not leading man material?
No, I'm saying that if you looked at it on the bare bones of the vital statistics, he hasn't got the track record. So therefore, I do think inexplicable success of the year was inevitably going to go to
Venom. Whilst A Star Is Born won the Twitter battle, Venom somehow won the war. If only the Life Foundation knew the symbiote's weakness was guitar ballads. The inevitable sequel is guaranteed carnage. I'm sure you've mused before that Venom was really Sony's attempt to do a Fox and have a bit of a Deadpool type thing, but is he as wisecracking? I thought he was just kind of a very mean, mutancy type thing. Well, does he do the gags?
I mean, the film has actually got a lot of praise, it has to be said, for the interesting relationship and certain homoerotic elements that it does play up and play
between the symbiote and Eddie Brock.
Yes, and it does lean into the more comedic as well, and it shows that Tom Hardy has got a bit of a sense of humour that perhaps it works. Whether that is enough to carry a 2 hour plus film, well, it got people through the doors, they paid the money to watch it, so I'm glad they enjoyed it, and I'm sure that the sequel is going to be inevitable.
Absolutely, it is. Moving on then, on the Shirgendas for the year 2018. I know it's 2019, and it's always quite confusing with these awards things, isn't it? Because it's the Oscars, there's some other awards that happen from time to time, will be happening, but it reviews the previous year, so they're not, these aren't the Shirgendas for 2019, no. These are Shirgendas for 2018, but happening in 2019. It's almost like time travel.
It almost is.
Almost.
Our next category is In It For The Money. It's when we hand out an award to a film or to a cast or to an individual actor who we believe has signed on the dotted line and turned in a performance merely for a paycheck.
Honourable mention to the entire cast of the aforementioned Venom.
Yeah, because it is quite,
You don't think Tom Hardy thought this is cool rather than, ka-ching? Or do you think he's thinking franchise potential?
I think he's thinking
crossover MCU. Well, money.
I'm thinking about the fact that Tom Hardy was the first choice to play Colonel Rick Flag in Suicide Squad and wanted to take the part, but because The Revenant overran in terms of production, he had to turn it down. And he did actually come out and say he was very cross about it because he wanted the money.
All right.
You've got from Suicide Squad.
Do you think he's glad that he wasn't in that film now?
I don't know.
That probably now has allowed him to get Venom.
It's allowed him to get Venom.
Yeah, but then there might be more money in that because of the potential of MCU crossover and a Venom franchise in its own right.
And he is very much the face of it, I said. Well, the big black face with the big white eyes and the huge sharp teeth.
Another guy that probably needs the money, according to, I think his managers say that he lives beyond his means. He says that they're ripping him off. Johnny Depp.
Yeah, we have to also acknowledge here that there was an awful lot of outcry, and perhaps justifiably so, about the fact that Johnny Depp was cast as Gellert Grindelwald in Crimes of Grindelwald. But yeah, as you say, maybe he needed the money and that was why he took the job, and he wouldn't be the first actor, he wouldn't be the last. I also wanted to mention Michael Douglas, not because of anything he said or did about Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I do remember an interview with him when he was promoting the initial Ant-Man, and it was sort of put to him on a serious point that what about people who decry superhero films when they're making a huge amount of money. And Michael Douglas, I think, said something along the lines of, look, you can go to a fine restaurant or you can go to a junk food restaurant, and some people like fine dining, some people like junk food. I think we've got to cater to both. And then he put, personally, I like fine dining, which is a bit of a dig when you're promoting Ant-Man. So yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning him in contention for this particular one. But the In It For The Money award is going to Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, the cast thereof.
He's going to sing! He's going to sing! James Bond is going to sing! Again!
A fantastically well-remunerated posse of actors reassemble to belt out ABBA's slightly lesser-known numbers and repeat some of their floor fillers in this feel-good karaoke B-side sequel prequel. Sun, Sea, Song and Sweet Sweet Cash. What's not to love as Meryl got her monies, Piers pocketed his piece of pie, and Cher took home her wage.
I suppose what's nice about the entire cast of Mamma Mia winning that award is that maybe they don't need the money, and that's what the award says. It's not, well, we need the money award, it's just in it for the money. But in defence of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, it's actually a decent prequel sequel.
It takes what is quite a difficult thing to manage, marrying the two up, and does it relatively well. Yeah, I'll give you that personally, but reception to it wasn't necessarily great. The box office wasn't especially great. And once you've used, presumably, all the best ABBA songs in the first one, isn't it just going to be a bit of a rehash?
Yeah, I just like the fact that the film's more about, it's like having your friends round. I think it just becomes a communal event where it's not really about the quality, it's the fact of you're going to get some top stars in a very exotic, glamorous location singing some decent music.
But doesn't the fact that Meryl Streep only turned up for, can we spoil it and say she only turns up for about 5 minutes?
It's a fleeting appearance.
Yeah, for the cash. So, our next category?
Our next category on the Shirgendas for 2018 is Wasted Potential of the Year. Now, I took umbrage and issue with some of the honourable mentions on this list, purely because it depends what potential for.
Yes.
There's a slight definition I think needs to be made as we discuss these. For example, Fantastic Beasts, The Crime of Grindelwald. And I said, well, if it's a film that is taking us to another place, then
Paris.
that's not wasted potential, because we know that the best is yet to come. So effectively, they're saving the potential.
Yeah, but you're then relying on that. You're saying with hindsight, it could actually turn out to be a better film, or a film that's taken us to a better place. But you can't judge films on that basis. You've got to judge, is it entertaining me now?
Dinosaurs stomping around in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
How far can you go with dinosaurs on an island after a while? You need to do something else with them.
And they did. Dinosaurs in a big house.
But still, that didn't get bums on seats, or happy bums on happy seats, it would appear, because, yes, it made quite a bit of cash in the top 5 for the year, but reception wasn't as great as it was for the first in the Jurassic World franchise.
Preempting things slightly, Ocean's 8, that was out in 2018.
It really, really was. And I think wasted potential for this one is simply the timing of the film, in a way, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, couldn't have been better. So you really could have made a huge impact with Ocean's 8, and it did seem a bit forgettable. And then you look at the cast when you've got Sandra Bullock and Kate Blanchett as your leads, and yet it still isn't getting a lot of attention. I think you have to say that's your fault in the end.
Were you almost foreseeing that Mary Poppins Returns will be the start of a trilogy or a series of films? Where do you think it's going?
I think the idea was that there were going to be more. Whether there will be or not, I'm not sure. But it was a high bar that they set themselves, making a sequel to Mary Poppins. But yet, when you look at the cast of people involved, you have to sort of say, could they have done better? Should they have done better?
All right, I remember being sat in a theatre in Leeds probably 5 or 6 years ago now.
We've all been sat in theatres in Leeds.
What, 5 or 6 years ago?
5 or 6 years
in
ago.
my seat.
Not in your seat.
And I remember thinking, this is a great story. Why hasn't this been told in a more open way? Because when you see a ballet, naturally the story is told through dance. So I thought, oh, well, great, you take this idea of Christmas and kingdoms and kind of sweets, and you give it dialogue, and this could be something really, really great, particularly with the music that accompanies it. But sadly, people apparently more qualified than I am tried it, and it hasn't worked.
Therefore, the Wasted Potential of the Year award is being handed out to
The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Four Realms continues the great tradition established by the original Nutcracker production in 1892. Both were box office bombs. Only one starred Helen Mirren. Can you guess which? So it had everything. It has the story, it has Tchaikovsky's music, it has sweets and kingdoms.
Has Christmas.
And magic. Every star that you could ask for. It has Disney behind it, and yet still they muck it up.
That's the problem, and you have to sort of think, how many more perfect storms can Disney get? They've got all that going for it, and yet you haven't adapted it already, so, make hay, Disney. And they really, really didn't. And I think that is the huge disappointment, because I want some classic Disney that is ambitious and that tries to do things that the studio hasn't done before, like adapting a ballet. I want that, as well as things like a new live-action version of Aladdin, a new live-action version of Dumbo, a new live-action version of, I don't know, The Black Cauldron.
So I'm sure Disney are crying into, well, probably piles of cash, to be honest, because for every Nutcracker and the Four Realms, there is indeed the highest grossing film of the year, and as your research to steal it points out, now the 4th highest grossing film of all time. And you always see, particularly with this film, sequel on sequel on sequel, can it get any bigger? Can it get any bigger? And seemingly the answer is nearly always yes. There's only so much money, right? There's only so many times people can go to the cinema. But is it a case of, are fans being brought in throughout latter stages, in the sense of you don't have to have been there since 2008 to then get into these films, go back, watch all the others, and now you're a current fan who can go and spend your money on
there's
more
also
new films.
There's a generational aspect as well, isn't there? The kids who have probably only seen it on terrestrial television or on whatever.
Normal TV.
Who've got into this particular series of films, and therefore they're adding their pocket money to the vast oceans of money that Disney are recouping.
Absolutely. Currently over $2 billion. I'm sure 3D helps, and 4D in some cases, with that particular pot of cash. So, the Shirgenda for mega money goes to Avengers Infinity War.
Avengers Infinity War, directed by the Demis Roussos brothers and starring literally everybody ever, was a small independent picture that told a personal story of a simple, faintly purple man and his passion for gentleman's fashion. It had a short, limited release.
So make a prediction now. Does Endgame go one better? Can it do more? In a sense, it should, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Because people invested over $2 billion in the first part of the story, so you've got to think that most of those people are going to return for another one. But it doesn't seem to be that way. Like Star Wars, for example, Force Awakens, amazingly huge. Last Jedi, not so much, but I guess the critical reception might also have something to do with that.
I wonder, one of the things that might have been going in Infinity War's favour is, of course, only a couple of months before Infinity War, we had Black Panther come out and do ever so well. Therefore,
kind of a tide that carries over.
Yes. And of course, what's coming out in 2019, a couple of months before Endgame, Captain Marvel, the expectation, the build-up for that has been huge. So maybe it's going to be the case that is going to lead into it very well, because we all assume that Captain Marvel's going to play a major role in Endgame.
Absolutely. Already made the point that when it comes to going to the cinema, there's only so much money. And I guess when it comes to watching entertainment in your own home or around your own home, outside of your home, on your devices, there is only so much money. And so many companies out there vying for your, I don't know, is it $7.99, $6.99? I don't know the pricing structure. BritBox is well and truly out there. Hulu, I think, is just for American.
Yeah, to be fair, BritBox
viewers.
is just for North America.
Yeah, so we can't access those. However, so many streaming services, so we thought it only right that there was a agenda to acknowledge bang for your buck, the idea of which streaming service gives you best value for money. And I guess the only real honourable mention would be Amazon Prime, which I think overall gives more breadth of material. Okay. For example, you can get children's shows, you can get original dramas, you can get classic stuff, but you can also now get live sport. Tennis currently showing, I think, Australian Open, and we know Premier League football to come. Is it next year or the year after?
It's next season, I think.
Next season. Yeah. So a surprise, you might think that that's not the ultimate value for money, but seemingly until Disney ad rears its head, then streaming only belongs to one. There can be only one.
There can be only one, and that is therefore the winner of this year's Bang for Your Buck. It is
Netflix. Originally an online DVD rental company, Netflix was founded by time travelers Mark Randolph and Reed Hastings. Having seen the future of entertainment, video streaming, the pair patiently waited 18 years for technology to catch up with their vision, but were beaten to the punch by YouTube. Still, who has the best Bird Box? Eh? Interesting, because Netflix obviously started out by being effectively a back catalogue, the idea of just other people's content and we'll ship it to you. Is it now all about the original content? Is that where the money is? Because it's going to cost more money, but I'm sure someone's worked it out, haven't they?
I think they've probably got an accountant.
And a calculator.
And a calculator. Or just the abacus, who knows. Should also mention when it comes to Netflix, even though we're focusing on the Shirgendas, been confirmed that Roma has been nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, so therefore it's the first streaming service film to get recognition by the Academy.
Do we have comments from Steven Spielberg?
We do not, but I'm assuming he's looking at his bald pate in the mirror because he's torn all his hair out.
Yeah, we might have something for him in a minute, though, that might make him feel a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay, then, let's get on to the category that comes next, which is Worst Marketing of the Year.
All right, and interesting, when we look at the honourable mentions and indeed the winner, there's a whole spectrum of marketing, from really, really great stuff that creates too high an expectation that can never be met, all the way down to nothing at all. And
which is the best? You decide.
So films that have kind of sneaked out with little fanfare, or films that had huge fanfare, but then the rest of the score just couldn't match up.
If you recall, on a Shires and Ireland agenda of a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned the fact that the Game of Thrones guys, because that's what they're officially called, wanted to promote the 8th season without any ads whatsoever, without any trails. And it's the Cloverfield paradox that kind of pioneered inadvertently that way of doing things, because it was only released by Netflix after, I think it was Paramount that were originally going to release it, had lots of problems, lots of expense, and they ultimately decided to let Netflix take it, and it was released on the same day as the very first trailer. And I do wonder if that is the reason that the Cloverfield paradox did ever so poorly.
Hey, bang for your buck. You don't have to go to the cinema anymore. Netflix, they've got it. They've got it covered. It's awful, but they've got it covered.
I most definitely do. On to a film that was hampered not so much by its advertising as by a lack of advertising induced by the poor strategy in terms of where to place the film in the year.
Do you think it's also a slight arrogance that The Last Jedi had been big? You know, put the critical kind of analysis to the side. The idea of, well, people know it's Star Wars. Can you rely on that? Well, obviously not. But maybe there's a slight kind of complacency that, everyone who knows that The Last Jedi is out in December will know that Solo's hitting around May time.
I also think advertising isn't just there to raise awareness, it's there to raise anticipation. And if you've got another Star Wars film coming on less than 5 months after the previous one was in cinemas, I think you're dialing down the anticipation, particularly as we sort of mentioned earlier on, that Solo wasn't a film where there was a huge fan clamour for it. There were other more interesting options Disney could have taken. And also, got to touch on the fact that there was a huge amount of attention on Alden Ehrenreich and how he was going to compare to Harrison Ford. And then when you factor in all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes with the Miller and Lord team opting out, and what was his name from...
Ronnie Howard?
I was going to say, what was Happy Days' character name called? I can't recall, but yes, Ronnie Howard.
All that said, Solo still doesn't win.
No, it doesn't.
So the winning film has really gone some. So worst marketing of the year, the Shirgenda goes to... Ready Player One. As it turned out, Ready Player One was a poor man's Tron legacy, which was an even poorer man's Tron, which is to say, very, very disappointing. We recommend you watch any movie from the 1980s instead, or stick Wreck-It Ralph on. Fair to say, perhaps, that Hollywood is guilty of putting all the best bits in the trailer. Do you think that is why Ready Player One fell foul?
Even more so than that, in Ready Player One, you've got a whole nostalgia artillery lined up in Ready Player One.
The nostalgia gun there's not guns, grenades, cannons.
It's been upgraded to the whole artillery battalion, and the fact that you show it all off in the trailer, I think for that film in particular, meant that they were never going to be able to live up to it. Not in a million years could they have made that film, because it's everyone's nostalgia, or certainly everyone that's been around since the 1980s in their nostalgia, layered into 50 seconds, or however long the teaser trailer was. Can you stretch that out over 2.5 hours? They tried.
It was a film of moments. There's some really cool ideas, but it felt like slightly self-indulgent. It is a love letter to the 1980s, of course it is. But kind of like set piece, and we get from one to the other. And maybe people like that, a film of moments, but I like something that's a bit more consistent.
Talking about inconsistent or consistently inconsistent, it's Why Did You Bother, our next awards category. And do we need to explain why it's called Why Did You Bother?
No, not really. Why did you bother?
Contenders for this one include Holmes and Watson, which again was a film that completely passed us by. I think it was released around
Boxing Day, Christmas time.
Yeah, Boxing Day, Christmas time, which is a big deal in the United States, but doesn't factor in here at all. And did we need another comedy Sherlock Holmes?
When was the last one?
Well, I was going to say we've had an awful lot of them, and the Robert Downey Jr. ones, I think, are quite tongue-in-cheek.
They are, but they're not an all-out comedy, are they? So I respect Ferrell and Riley indeed, yeah. C. Riley, for having a go, and yeah, it gets that comedy duo back together, but it's that American silly type comedy that, for me, does nothing.
Had a load of British stars in it, though, people who we think would have known better, but that's sort of why they're in this particular category. Johnny English Strikes Again, which is one of those films that...
Rowan Atkinson in it for the money? Maybe he should have been
possibly
in that category.
But it does make a lot of money internationally. And is that a sort of thing? Are you proud of Johnny English in that respect?
He's one of our finest exports.
For
now. We don't know what's going to happen in March. Maybe we won't be able to get rid of him. Or if he's overseas, he's not coming back.
I happened to watch a bit of music television this morning.
Music channels?
Music channel.
Wow.
And I was completely surprised because I was watching and enjoying the latest Ollie Murs offering. And then Rowan Atkinson popped up because it turns out he was providing the soundtrack to the film.
Excellent.
No, the video is terrible. It changed my opinion of it completely. Inevitably, Solo: A Star Wars story had to be a contender for Why Did You Bother?
Just because you think it's a story that didn't need to be told?
Didn't need to be told. We don't need to know everybody's origin story. We don't need to know how Han Solo makes his bones. That's a technical term.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's a gangster thing.
Is it?
Yeah, it means you killed somebody.
Because you literally make someone down to their bones.
You do indeed, yeah. So now you'll know. But...
Well, the next time I see a gangster, what are we going to...
So next time you need to congratulate someone, you'll say, "Oh, well done on making your bones." Why Did You Bother winner, congratulations, commiserations, goes to
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood, rehash once again. Robin Hood, with Tyrone from King's Men. Changed everything, still no bloody good. Robin Hood.
Are you going to read something from some books? From some
I will at some point.
Who was a friend of another author? Even you can't defend Robin Hood.
Unfortunately, I can't. You had it in particularly for the Lincoln green-clad marksman. But I have to sort of say, on the back of the Russell Crowe, Ridley Scott effort of, I think, 2010, I don't think there was a clamour for another Robin Hood film, and there certainly wasn't a clamour for a Robin Hood film that is kind of historically irreverent and yet is also making serious points, or trying to make serious points about class struggle, but doing it in a really ham-fisted way.
Okay. Would you class Robin Hood as a superhero?
I think he's got the attributes thereof.
In the same way that Batman is classed as a superhero?
Yes, I think so. Batman's got exceptional skill and Robin Hood's got exceptional skill. Batman's got a cowl and Robin Hood's got a hood.
We could also, more often than not, a hat.
Sometimes he wears a hat, sometimes he wears a hat.
So why is he not Robin Hat?
It's the question everybody has been asking.
Which leads us, it doesn't really, to our next Shirgenda of Best Civilian of the Year. So we might argue that Robin is just a civilian who's robbing from people, because he's certainly not super in that great sense. And disappointed, because I think I asked for this as an honourable mention, Letitia Wright, Princess from Black Panther.
Yes.
Tech genius, young, smart, gets her hands dirty towards the end of the film as well.
I think part of the reason we, not discounted, but ultimately Letitia Wright didn't get it is because the two other contenders for this one, or the other contender and the ultimate winner, were doing stuff behind the scenes on the film as well. So I thought in a way that kind of lends itself a little bit more. And also, to be fair to Letitia Wright, there have been strong suggestions that she may well get a more prominent role in the Black Panther series going forward.
All right, that's a good shout, because she's mighty entertaining and a very good character as well. Bradley Cooper, not doing too bad for himself as regards singing, playing, hanging out with Lady Gaga.
They're the main things. Yeah, he's got to put up with hanging out with Lady Gaga. But yeah, directing, writing the film, also co-writing some of the music as well. So he really got his hand in many a pie.
But it's not enough to win.
No, it isn't, because...
so this guy has more pies?
Yeah.
Or more fingers?
More fingers in...
It could be more fingers and less pies, to be honest.
Yeah, it could. You can get away with lots of fingers in one pie. But John Krasinski also wrote, directed, and starred, although, as we sort of saying, civilian of the year, because it's really, I think, Emily Blunt's film. He plays her husband, so he's sort of taking a supporting role. So I felt John Krasinski, also the fact that he's the new Jack... I was about to say Jack Reacher is the new Jack Ryan.
So Jack Russell, then?
No, that wouldn't be any good in The Quiet Place. So therefore, our best civilian of the year goes to, I've already mentioned it, John Krasinski.
Spoilers.
Shh. John Krasinski wrote, directed and starred in sci-fi thriller A Quiet Place. A musical adaptation is forthcoming. Shh.
Do you reckon he owes it all to The Office? Because that's his kind of star-making role, so to speak, as far as TV's concerned. Getting the director's chair, I think, maybe as well.
Yes, I think so. Whether it made him a star, I don't know. Maybe it showed that he could play that type of character, which then got him some roles in film, which then meant he could transition to doing other types of roles in film because he'd shown a greater range. So now he's sort of established himself as someone to watch out for going forward.
I always forget that he's in The Holiday.
Is he?
He's Cameron Diaz's assistant in The Holiday. And he's obviously famous for being not Captain America.
Yes, very much so. He was a contender for the part of Steve Rogers. But as I said, what he does next, what John Krasinski does next, is going to be an interesting one. But he isn't a contender for one to watch out for of the year.
Indeed. So many people that we predict are going to have a huge 2019 on the back of 2018 successes. And Olivia Colman, could it be a little gold man?
It could be.
It
could be a little gold man coming Olivia Colman's way. And either way, whether she wins it or not, if she's just simply a runner-up, as it were, at the Academy Awards for Best Actress, her career's now gone to a different level completely, hasn't it, for this? You do sort of think what sort of role she's going to get offered next.
Yeah, she's just that lady off the telly.
Yeah,
now she's making proper films.
Well, I still think of her as being the supporting role in that Mitchell & Webb look sketches. And on the radio as well, so she's clearly got big things ahead, but what sort of things is going to be interesting to see. Indeed.
My choice for winner, or should I say winners, was the Game of Thrones cast, just because the law of probability says if we choose them, we're more likely to be right. It means that one of them's going to do something amazing.
Yeah, and of course it is the final year of Game of Thrones, therefore what they do next is going to be one to look out for. Tom mentioned Letitia Wright earlier on, and certainly a big contender for a breakthrough in 2019. Also Rami Malek, for similar sort of reasons to Olivia Colman. He's going to perhaps win the Best Actor gong at the Oscars. What he goes on to next, you've suggested possible Bond villain.
There have been rumours that he might be playing a Bond villain. He's been stirring the pot on that one as well. Tom Holland,
because he's going to star in Spider-Man 5.
He's already starred in one.
Well, no, and he's got another film coming out with Rey from Star Wars.
Cool.
Also, we were going to mention in last week's show, but it got dropped. He was in Uncharted, or announced as starring in Uncharted.
Indeed. So, all that said, none of those are the winner of the Shirgenda for one to watch out for in the year 2019, because that gong goes to
Lady Gaga.
Gaga? Lady Gaga brings home the bacon, and this time, she's not wearing it. She may be poker-faced about her next move, but we can be sure she's no longer on the edge of glory. She's up to her eyes in it. Can Lady Gaga transition from the role of a singer in a film? What I'm saying is, can she do other things? I'm sure she can, physically, but will she get the opportunity, and will she succeed at being just a character in a film?
Well, that's the thing. I think her first acting role was in American Horror Story, where she was playing an outlandish character, and you sort of know, well, Lady Gaga can probably play outlandish characters. In A Star Is Born, she's playing a singer, and the question there was, well, can she go to, it's not quite girl next door, but certainly ordinary sort of girl who becomes a huge sensation. And she's ticked both those boxes now. Whether she can play other things is going to be the big question, but I think she can possibly answer it.
Other things. Look forward to seeing them. Almost there as regards this year's Shirgendas. Our next award is for Way Cool Cinematic Moment of the Year. This is the kind of moment that makes you, when sat in the auditorium, look right and have
it has to be right.
Well, I'm looking right, you'd be looking left. And have an unspoken moment of, this is way cool.
Yes, there have been several way cool cinematic moments in my lifetime. I'm sure there have been in yours as well. And 2018 had them aplenty. Mission Impossible Fallout, we've already mentioned it earlier on in the awards for overachieving, it could be argued, given expectations of the film. But every Mission Impossible film packs a punch when it comes to, punches, but when it comes to stunts. But the Halo jump, or the Tomorrow Never Dies jump, as I like to think of it, really was something from last year's Mission Impossible Fallout.
Good things from Solo, a Star Wars story. Yes, they happen. The Kessel Run, so the famous Kessel Run of the Millennium Falcon, born out of necessity, it turns out.
Is this the next Bourne film?
Could be, write it down. Because they've run almost head on into a Star Destroyer, and then the only way they can get away from the Empire is to take a very dangerous course through some very, very dangerous space.
When it was revealed that there was going to be a Queen biopic, a Freddie Mercury biopic, it was inevitable that there was going to be an awful lot of attention on the Live Aid sequence and whether it would be able to live up to expectations. It most definitely did.
Indeed, in down apparently, I'm told, to the positioning of cups and the like on the stage. It's a very, very faithful reconstruction and reenactment of that famous performances. Mike, do you like a princess?
I'm someone who is on record as appreciating the work of Disney as regards their princesses back catalogue.
Who's your favourite?
I think the best film is Sleeping Beauty, but in terms of who is my favourite princess, I'm probably
Princess Leia.
I'm probably going to say Belle.
Belle, yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, yes.
Yeah, brains and beauty, why not? Obviously, cool moment for Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2, where in cyberspace, Vanellope?
Yes, Vanellope.
Proves herself a princess amongst the other Disney princesses.
So getting them all together was a very big deal indeed. The monorail mayhem sequence from Incredibles 2, I think actually comes quite early on in the movie, but got a great reception as being innovative in the way that the first Incredibles was something very special and therefore made its return all the more welcome. And finally, in terms of contenders, do we have to acknowledge that whether it was good or bad, the snappening was a way cool moment?
Indeed, the decimation of half the universe at the hands, literally fingers, of Thanos was dramatic. It was emotional as well.
Unexpected.
Tom Holland. So he's done some good.
Will he be one to? No, he won't be one to watch in 2019. We've already decided that was the previous award.
So, way cool cinematic moment of the year belongs to Black Panther.
This exhilarating sequence from Luma Pictures Effects House is the second greatest example of remote-controlled driving in cinema, second only to Mamma Mia's Pierce Brosnan commanding a BMW 750iL by Ericsson Mobile in the greatest James Bond film ever made, Tomorrow Never Dies.
So we of course need to expand on that, and that is that the moment we've chosen from Black Panther is the Korean car chase.
The Busan car chase, I think I'm right.
Yes. So the idea of Black Panther chasing down Ulysses Claw, aka Andy Serkis, and trying to recapture a Wakandan artifact that he's in possession of, done remotely because Black Panther's sister is in Wakanda, he's in Korea, but the way they interact, the way it's shot, it's almost like she's driving the car and he's on top. He is physically on top, she's miles away, and then just some of the sheer beauty of people getting up on cars and jumping around. Normally it would be flashy, it is special effects heavy, but it's just so damn real.
It's inventive, it is artistic, and given the quality of special effects these days, you've got to have something that is inventive and artistic, because otherwise the actual effects themselves just won't impress people anymore.
No, absolutely. So story-wise it made perfect sense, and it is officially now way cool. Time for our last award of the evening, the morning, or the afternoon.
I think it genuinely is the biggest award of the year, because it's not necessarily one that people would want to win, but I think it's sort of we're giving some acknowledgement to films that didn't otherwise get it.
Indeed, it's almost a secret award, because the final Shirgenda of this award ceremony, which it is did that come out in 2018? Because we said that, for example, Solo snuck out with no real marketing, but there are a lot more films that they didn't want people to see.
Yeah, I don't want to say...
They clearly did, because they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on them.
I don't want to say that it's sort of a filmic equivalent, an awards filmic equivalent of In Memoriam, but it kind of is. And let's just work through a few of them, because we're probably not going to get through all of them. But do you remember A Wrinkle in Time?
No, that will definitely pass me by.
Yeah, it was Oprah Winfrey starring as some sort of fairy. Ava DuVernay directing that one. Of course, looking forward to New Gods from her, but very much out there, but did not make a connection with people out there.
We've already established that Cloverfield Paradox did come out in 2018 and went straight to the Netflix. John English strikes again. Once again, did he? Apparently so, but big business overseas.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Now, as I said, it's in the top 5 grossing movies of the year, and yet did it make any sort of impact other than financial?
No, because it's dinosaurs in a big house, so at least we moved away from the island. It's set up an interesting prospect for the future, so we might even use the term good bridging film.
Maybe. Mamma Mia, here we go again, film we've already mentioned. But did it actually achieve anything new? No, I know Tom suggested, perhaps rightly, that it didn't necessarily need to achieve anything new, but we're sort of saying, did it have a cultural impact? It did not. Mentioned Nutcracker and the Four Realms, mentioned Maze Runner already. What about Pacific Rim Uprising?
It was and still is a franchise, isn't it? It lends itself to sequel potential. However, the fact is that once we've seen huge robots punching huge aliens in the face and they'd sealed up the rift in the first one, where do we go from there? And then it's just this old trope of, oh, my dad died in the first one, so I'm going to honour his memory.
And the second one is the hardest, because if you don't get a good second film, you ain't got a franchise. You've just got a failure to launch a franchise, and you could argue that is what happened with Pacific Rim Uprising. Red Sparrow. Now, back when the Shires and Ireland agenda was at the movies, we did a spy-themed show, all because of the release of Red Sparrow. And you're thinking, it's a spy film starring Jennifer Lawrence. What could possibly go wrong? People could ignore it. And that is exactly what happened.
But there was another film that well and truly snuck out of the box office, looked around cagily, and realised that no one was coming to see it, and nobody cared. So, the Shirgendas for Did That Come Out in 2018 goes to Tomb Raider. It's a shame the word of this reboot didn't spread like the movie's dormant virus. Even with the proper actress playing the role, apologies Nell, Tomb Raider crept in and out of cinemas like, well, you know. Tomb Raider outperformed and underperformed all at the same time.
Which in a way is kind of an achievement. Yes, it's grossed a higher total than either the original Tomb Raider or, was it? I was going to say Tomb Raider Circle of Life. It wasn't.
Cradle of Life.
Cradle of Life. And it also got better reviews overall than both of those films. And Alicia Vikander seemed quite pleased with it. But it's lost money, and therefore, whether there's another instalment of the artifact hunting franchise, we'll have to wait and see.
We will, but we know full well there will be another instalment of the Shires and Ireland agenda
franchise
next week. Franchise? Yeah, certainly. We'll be going 16 strong by next week.
I was going to say, when is a franchise just a series? And when is a franchise something that people can buy something and they get to make their own version of it?
I don't know. When it's a jar?
I was going to say, are we going to let people make their own version of Shires and Ireland?
They can for me, as long as I'm getting paid.
I've been Mike Ireland.
I've been Tom Shires.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.